Lady Columbia is a heroic figure meant to represent how the New World embodied Enlightenment values of progress, tolerance, and free thinking. A lady, a miss, or an outright goddess, Columbia has existed as the literal personification of the United States since before its creation as a country. However, the name and the image not only stuck, but were embraced as the perfect representation of the New World's strife for freedom and progress. The first mentions of Lady Columbia, originally called Columbina, show up toward the end of the 17th century, about 80 years before the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. At this point, the future United States was just a collection of British colonies on a far-flung landmass across the Atlantic Ocean. Even though Columbia has since been supplanted by Lady Liberty and outlived by Uncle Sam, folks have at least seen her if they've seen the Columbia Pictures movie logo. Columbia doesn't have a set-in-stone look, but she's almost always a young to middle-aged woman with fair skin and, more often than not, blonde hair. Columbia's wardrobe varies greatly, but it always has some patriotic notes to it. She is sometimes depicted wearing the American flag as a dress to show her patriotism. At other times, she wears completely white robes, reminiscent of those worn in ancient Rome. She sometimes wears the Roman Phrygian cap, as it too is a classic symbol of freedom dating all the way back to the times of ancient Rome. As for Columbia's name, it should come as no surprise that it's based on the name of Christopher Columbus, the genuine explorer who is credited for discovering the New World. However, while Columbia has most prominently been used in the US, Canada too has used the symbol for centuries. As the National Museum of American History says, the idea of Columbia was first thought of by Chief Justice Samuel Sewall in 1697. Sewall was from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He didn't invent the name as a part of his legal work, however, but as a poet. Sewall wrote a poem in which he called the American colonies Columbia, after the name of Christopher Columbus. While she's often called Goddess Columbia, Columbia doesn't belong to any religion. No one really claims that she has godhood either. She's just a symbol of the New World and the European colonies in it. That being said, while it may tickle some of the more ardent Christian believers the wrong way, Columbia continues to be called a goddess to this day. In a sense, she can be called a non-theistic deity. Miss Columbia isn't the first female symbol used to represent the European colonies in the New World. Before her inception at the end of the 17th century, the image of the Indian queen that was most commonly used. Depicted as mature and attractive, the Indian queen was similar to feminine images the Europeans used for other colonized continents such as Africa. Over time, the Indian queen became younger and younger until she transformed into the Indian princess image. People appreciated the younger-looking design of the image as it was more in line with the New World's infancy. Once the Columbia symbol was invented, however, the Indian princess started falling out of favor. For a while, the goddess Columbia and Indian princess symbols coexisted. However, the American settlers clearly preferred the European-looking woman over the more native-looking one, and the Indian princess stopped being used shortly after Columbia's creation. Not exactly. The Statue of Liberty was created by the French engineer Gustave Eiffel in 1886, the same engineer who designed the Eiffel Tower in Paris. At that point, the image of Colombia was well established. However, Gustavo based his statue on the image of the Roman goddess Libertas instead. So the statue doesn't directly represent Colombia. At the same time, Colombia herself is based on the goddess Libertas. So the two images are still related. Libertas herself was a very common image in France at the time, since the French symbol of freedom during the French Revolution, Lady Marianne, was also based on the goddess Libertas. A large part of Colombia's visual inspiration comes from the ancient Roman goddess of freedom Libertas. That's likely indirect, as Libertas had also inspired many other feminine symbols of freedom across Europe. The white robes and the Phrygian cap in particular are telltale signs that Colombia is strongly based on Libertas. That's also why she's often called Lady Liberty. Not all Western European feminine symbols of freedom are based on Libertas, so to draw parallels between Colombia and some of them would technically be inaccurate. For example, the famous Italian image Italia Turrita may look similar, but she's actually based on the Roman mother goddess Cybele. One European character who's closely related to Colombia is the French Marianne. She too is based on the Roman goddess Libertas and was used as a symbol of liberty during the French Revolution. She's often shown sporting a Phrygian cap as well. The British trident-wielding symbol, Britannia, is an even better example. Also coming from the times of ancient Rome, Britannia is a purely British symbol, representing the island's liberation from Roman rule. In fact, Britannia and Colombia were also pitted against each other, especially during the American Revolution. Goddess Colombia has risen and fallen in terms of popularity over the years, but she has nevertheless remained a key symbol of all of the United States. Versions of her image and those of Libertas or the Statue of Liberty can be seen in every state, every city, and on almost every government building to this day. As the personification of the country, she symbolizes the United States itself. She also symbolizes freedom, progress, and independence. Colombia's name has been invoked countless times since her inception at the end of the 17th century. To list all references to Colombia on governmental buildings, cities, states, and institutions would be impossible, but here are some of the most well-known mentions of Colombia in American culture. The song "Hail Columbia" is a patriotic song often considered an unofficial national anthem of the country. Columbia Pictures, which was named in 1924, has used varying versions of the image of the goddess Columbia holding a torch upright. The command module of the Apollo 11 craft in 1969 was named Columbia and was also the space shuttle of the same name built in 1979. The famous 2013 video game BioShock Infinite takes place in the fictional city of Columbia, with the place also being plastered with images of the American goddess. Columbia's name and image may be misunderstood today, but she has been a part of the North American mythos for centuries. A symbol, an inspiration, and an outright modern, nationalistic and non-theistic goddess in her own right, Colombia, quite literally, is America.